Gold mining stocks set to erase 2026 gains as rate cut bets fade.
Generally speaking, we think silver's probably going to underperform gold going forward.
The United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities.
They are begging to make it the enemy.
We don't see any reason why we should talk with Americans.
I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won.
Gold has been under a lot of pressure. It lost two of its major tailwinds recently.
We're going to end the day pretty dang close to session lows as investors really take stock of just how far apart the U.S. and Iran are right now.
Hello, welcome back. So gold has been in a free fall down to $4,500 an ounce, and it was just $5,200 a month ago. Silver is down hard as well, below $70 an ounce when it was in the 90s not too long ago. Usually precious metals like gold and silver go up during war because they are a safe haven, and investors like to park their assets in safe havens in uncertain geopolitical times. But right now, precious metals are actually selling off. For context, the overall stock market has been on an emotional roller coaster ever since the war started. So one day, President Trump says that the US is in a negotiation, and the market goes up. And then the next day, the Iranian regime says, no, we're not, no ceasefire, and the markets go down.
Yeah, investors keep hoping, right? Some kind of resolution, steps towards a ceasefire. But you look at the headlines that we saw, some back and forth, but it doesn't seem like that's coming anytime soon.
What you're looking for is the confidence that you can find the evidence that you're validating that optimism with obviously some form of a resolution.
Now, if we look at Warren Buffett's cash pile as an indicator of stock market overvaluation, combined with the fear and greed index, which is measured by the VIX, also combined with all these macro factors like the Strait of Hormuz creating an oil shock, elevated crude oil, the Fed holding interest rates steady, there being a risk of inflation now to the economy because of elevated crude oil prices, the dollar strengthening from the last month, the 10-year Treasury Yield spiking, all of these things combined is starting to push the markets toward a demand for liquidity.
Most analysts expect the central bank to hold its benchmark rate steady at 3.5 to 3.75%.
Deflationary, recessionary forces from this energy crisis.
The reason why gold has had some headwinds, just like equities, is because in the current environments, nominal yields in bonds have been rising higher, but inflation expectations have not budged.
Now, in 1971, President Nixon took the US dollar off of the gold standard. And in 74, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia to price oil exclusively in US dollars, which created a structural demand for the US dollar, which is otherwise known as the Petrodollar link. The Petrodollar link basically means that crude oil and the US dollar move in the same direction. So when crude oil goes up, the US dollar demand would go up as well. In reality or in history, it's not always a clear relationship, but when people say petrodollar, that's what they mean. So most people think that war means investors are automatically flooding to headlines, but it's not that straightforward. There's a series of things that have happened, kind of like a chain of dominoes. We start off with the war in the Middle East, the Iran war right now, which is currently disrupting supply. The Strait of Hormuz is a very important region in the Middle East where roughly 20% of all of the world's oil goes through there, through ships.
Mental fact that the Strait of Hormuz is still largely closed and presumably will remain largely closed after that deadline.
The war in Iran has sent oil prices to their highest level in years. Trump administration is lifting sanctions on some Iranian tankers to get more oil into the market. Some 45 million barrels set to start flowing soon from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
So now there is a crude oil shock. Oil prices have spiked. They've remained spiked ever since the war started. Fear and uncertainty drives the stock market more than anything else. So the markets immediately prices in and starts this broader market sell-off. When oil goes up, transportation costs go up. This impacts airlines, manufacturing costs go up, food costs go up. Why do food costs go up? Because food gets transported on trucks from the farm to the wholesaler to the grocery store. So when crude oil spikes, inflation follows with a short-term lag. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably seen some higher prices at the gas station already, but it usually takes about 2 to 3 months for inflation to really show with elevated crude oil prices.
These attacks on the South Pars gas field have knocked out 17% of Qatar's LNG. And that's huge for Doha. It's going to be a loss of about $20 billion in revenue.
So when there is a fear of inflation, the market immediately prices this in with fewer rate cuts. And rate cuts are good for the stock market. Investors like rate cuts. investors do not like it when there are fewer rate cuts. So that's why the S&P and the NASDAQ are down year to date. So the Fed is like in a tough situation because they can't reduce interest rates while oil is elevated, because that is definitely going to create an inflationary environment. So they've had to hold right now, and they're not able to help out the stock market right now. Now, this fear of inflation has actually pushed up 10-year Treasury yields. Despite the US dollar being strong, and despite, foreign capital flowing into US denominated assets right now, Treasury yields are still up. So investors automatically start thinking about opportunity costs, because if they were to invest in gold, well, gold and silver are hard assets. High interest rates usually means that investors would rather put their money in a high yield savings account or a bond, right? Which usually means that investors will not be as interested in gold in this instance. And they don't actually yield anything, right? They're a safe haven, but they don't actually pay a dividend. They don't pay interest. They don't pay you anything. You just hold the gold. But inflation combined with high oil prices usually starts to become an indicator of recession risk. Not every spike in oil price in history has immediately led to a recession, but it did happen a few times. It happened in the 70s, it happened in the 90s with the Iraq War, and it happened in 2008 when oil hit $147 a barrel. The market usually responds very quickly to oil price spikes. So when dollar demand goes up, that usually puts a downward pressure on gold.
What do you think continues to boost the American dollar?
We've certainly seen the dollar take the baton from rates, which I think was the biggest driver last year from a macro perspective. So it is really all about the directionality of the dollar, and the shift during this crisis has been to the dollar's benefit and gold's detriment.
That's why when the US dollar dropped earlier this year, that is exactly when gold was at its peak of $5,500. When dollar demand goes up, that basically puts a downward pressure on gold. If we think back to a couple of years ago, this is the exact thing that happened in 2022. So in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, oil spiked to $133 and gas went up. The national average in the US became $5 a gallon, and inflation also went up as well. This didn't just happen in the US, it also happened in Canada as well. The Fed in the US and the Bank of Canada, they both raised rates between 2022 to 2023. And in the US, they took the Fed funds rate from near 0% to 4.5% in 2022, and then up to 5.5% in 2023. The US dollar also hit a 20-year high at the same time, and at this point, gold was $1,600. Remember, gold and the US dollar have an inverse relationship. Now let's talk about T-bills and the relationship between T-bills and gold. T-bills are generally considered the safest investment in the world. Right now, yields on these T-bills are elevated and they're rising. Gold and Treasury yields have an inverse relationship. Remember, gold and silver pay you nothing, zero yield. If you hold $100,000 in gold, you earn nothing in terms of income. But $100,000 in a 10-year Treasury at 4.5% earns you $4,500 per year in guaranteed income. So that's why when the Fed raised rates from near 0 to over 5% in 2022, Treasury yields went from 1.5% to over 4.5% in less than 2 years. So every basis point on these Treasury yields pushes the demand for gold down.
So that central bank demand story is still ongoing, but the correlations between gold and other asset classes have clearly shifted over the last few weeks. The old drivers of real yields and the dollar are reasserting ourselves.
So we always want to watch for the 10-year Treasury yield because it's a pretty important indicator for gold direction along with the US dollar as well. And the main reason from the Treasury yield perspective is really just opportunity cost. Now, the safe haven thesis doesn't always hold true during geopolitical events because demand for liquidity can actually override this need for going into safe havens. So when markets get really volatile, leverage becomes a liability. And the first thing that investors ask is, well, what can I sell quickly to get my money back? In modern financial markets, hedge funds and PE funds use a lot of leverage to amplify returns for their investors. Now, PE funds, they generally don't trade derivatives, but hedge funds and prop firms do. And these firms usually also trade on algorithms as well. Now, hedge fund algorithms, prop firm algorithms are secrets and they're basically proprietary to the firm. They will also look at macro factors and they will look at things like the Treasury yield spiking, the US dollar spiking, and these things can trigger automatic sell-offs of paper gold. A lot of paper and silver gold that trade on the COMEX tends to be bought with leverage. And one culprit in particular are leveraged ETFs. So leveraged ETFs, and yes, there are leveraged gold ETFs, there are leveraged silver ETFs, there are leveraged precious metals ETFs. They get their leverage in a different way than the average investor that trades, through the Robinhood app on a margin account. Leveraged ETFs, they promise 2 or 3 time returns. If silver is up 5% in the day, you buy into a leveraged silver ETF. Oh, you're actually getting 10%. That sounds very attractive.
The dangerous part about the ETFs becomes when you're applying multiples of leverage. So, it used to be a few years ago, 2 to 3 times was crazy. And now you're seeing ETFs proposed with 5 times leverage. And
2 to 1 leverage, 300 off it, 3 to 1 leverage. But if it goes down, you're hurt the other way.
But the ETFs have to rebalance daily, and the returns actually don't last for investors. A lot of individual investors, however, will buy into these leveraged ETFs with margin accounts using, for example, the Robinhood app. But what happens is that they will start selling very quickly once the price of gold falls a little bit.
The customers that have been entering into the oil complex or energy complex have been doing it on a couple fronts.
So it's almost like they're buying crude to protect against their stocks going down.
I think silver really has entered kind of meme investment territory over the last week. Some of the silver ETFs, we're seeing inflows several times larger than the SPDR S&P 500 ETF, which I think goes to show just how sort of exuberant the attitude has gotten to silver.
And that starts that liquidation or that cascading effect, which also then forces the ETF to sell as well, because the ETF has to rebalance. So leverage goes in both ways, like a double-edged sword, right? When times are good and the market's going up, leverage allows us to amplify our returns. But when things go south, it goes south really, really fast. So in the example of a leveraged gold ETF, leveraged ETFs have ratios that they have to meet every single day. But generally speaking, if gold goes down, the leveraged gold ETF has to sell. And then there's also redemption-driven selling, which basically means that individual investors, they sell their ETF shares. The fund may have to unwind some of their derivative positions in order to return money back to their investors. So it becomes this mechanism of forced selling. So back in March 2020, when COVID hit and the markets crashed, gold actually dropped initially 12% in 2 weeks, from 1680 in early March to 1470. This was during a global pandemic, usually when people get scared and they want to flood to safe havens. And the reason is because of forced selling, this forced selling mechanism, which leads to margin calls. After that, though, gold ended up rallying 14% over the next year and a half. So when gold sells off during a crisis, the first question is this a fundamental sell-off or forced selling? While there's still definitely forced selling here at play, because there's always going to be people that are leveraged, and people that are extremely leveraged are always going to sell when things go downhill. But gold is still largely backed by central bank demand. Silver, on the other hand, is much more volatile and much more speculative. So silver, unfortunately, will drop even faster than gold, which is why silver is actually down 2% year to date and gold is down 1% year to date. So let's take a look at 2 examples of what happened to gold during wars. The first one we're talking about is the Gulf War. The Gulf War happened in 1990. Which is before I was born, but don't worry, I did research on it. So during the Gulf War, oil spiked from $17 and it went up to over $40. Then gold simultaneously went from $360 to $410 because safe haven argument, right? The war lasted for 42 days. By the time the war ended, gold went back down from $410 to $360 again. So basically all of the gains were very temporary and just purely based on the war itself. Basically, the idea is that gold goes up during geopolitical uncertainty and war, but once war is over, gold will come back down. So it's what we call like the war premium or the geopolitical premium. Now, in 2003, during the Iraq War, gold was actually already in a bull market at $350 when the war had started. The gold actually didn't move that much when the war started. This is because tension in the conflict had been building up for months, so it was basically already priced in. Once the war started, gold then continued to push up, not just because of war itself, but because of the US dollar weakness and also fiscal spending at the time. So the lesson from both wars is that, yes, gold is considered a safe haven and it does respond to war, but more so the macro consequences of war, not just the fact that there is a war. So that's why understanding the macro chain is so important, and that is why right now gold is actually going down despite the fact that we are in a war. This whole gold bull run started when central banks all around the world started to buy up more and more gold. A lot of people felt like this was contributing to the narrative that the world is trying to move away from the US dollar being the world reserve currency.
I think the underlying drivers which have sort of driven precious metals to their current level, stuff like debasement concerns, de-dollarization, inflation concerns, I don't think any of that's necessarily gone away.
So since the beginning of the year, there's still been a positive net buy of gold from central banks. They haven't bought as much as last year, but it's still positive, meaning that overall, banks are still buying. China in particular has still bought consistently since the beginning of 2026. So going back to the liquidity argument, it's not that central banks are selling off their gold, which is triggering the sell-off. It's more so that investors are looking for cash right now, and gold, especially paper gold, is one of the fastest things that they can sell off for cash. Generally speaking, if you own a well-diversified, risk-adjusted portfolio and you have a small portion of holdings in precious metals, that's never a bad idea. At the same time, I'm not making any specific price recommendations or buy-sell recommendations for gold or silver. If you like this video today, make sure you guys give me a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on gold or silver, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time.